Welcome to the True That Show, a show about lifepreneurship presented with wit, humor, and banter by Deborah Drummond and Caroline Blanchard. A lifepreneur is someone who's living life the way an entrepreneur runs their business. All in. Lifepreneurs are rock stars. Lifepreneurs are people who are brave, who risk, who live full on, who think out of the box, who win this thing called life. Lifepreneurs are around us every day. They are everyday heroes. Join Deborah and Caroline, these two stage-walking women who tell it like it is. You'll learn from the most incredible lifepreneurs who will inspire you to be the best version of you. Now here are your hosts.
Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us again this week. How are you, Deborah?
I'm fantastic, Caroline. You know what? I'm feeling really lucky. And I'm not quite sure why. I'm sure we're going to find out, but it could be because it's not snowing here. How are you doing, honey?
I'm doing well, and we're shoveling here, so we're doing fit. And maybe you're feeling lucky because Valentine is coming, or you're hoping to get lucky, one of the two. So today we have two amazing authors, and we're actually going to talk about luck. And when I say amazing authors, they're not only great people and great human beings, but they're also like New York bestsellers of many, many different books. So I'm not going to go through the list right now, but I will ask you, Deb, what does luck mean to you?
Oh, well, I'm not going to play on this word all night, but I'm like, am I lucky? I'll tell you, I've had that question thrown at me for a long time because, as you may or may not know, our family is really, we have a kind of a reputation for giving multiple names. You know, my daughter is Chloe Celeste Therese, and my son is Ocean Kennedy Blue. Well, my mother's name is Lucky Audrey Aileen. And so having a mother with the name Lucky, people would ask you, are you lucky? Did your mom get lucky? You know, all through my life. But I'll tell you, interesting story, because like, how does she end up with a name like Lucky? Well, my grandmother, bless her soul, was a very, very spunky lady for her time. And the reason why my mother's name is Lucky is because that was the name of the sailor that my grandmother had a little rendezvous. So it is quite genetic, but also being half Irish helps. I am a love of the 4-leaf clover. And I was just doing an interview and drinking my tea out of my Guinness cup. So honestly, I feel like luck is always all around. And you know what? I'm one of those people that if I find like a nickel or a dime or a quarter on the street, I'm like, oh, this is my lucky day. Now I know there's more to luck, and I'm looking forward to the interview because I know there's more to just the serendipity part of luck. But I mean, funny. It's in my genetics. So that lets me ask you, Caroline.
No, wait. It's just so funny that you say when I find a nickel on the ground or a penny, because you just told your age there. Because the new generation, when they see a penny, there's like, what's that? It's dirty, and they leave it there and they move along. So I'm sorry. I was just thinking about my teenagers. They would be like, why are you picking up this? Because I'm like you. But then, my thing was like when you pick up, when you find a penny or anything, you have to pick it up, you make a wish, and you have to throw it behind you. So anyway, what was your question?
My question is, you just dated yourself because I've never heard the throw back over. I'm keeping that money and I'm putting it in my pocket. But my question to you before we get into listening to more brilliant information is, Caroline, when's the last time you got lucky?
I'm not sure I can talk about that on air. No, when is the last time I got lucky? When I met you. There we go. And you know what? If I had a mother that was named Lucky, every single time someone would have asked, like, your mom, are you lucky? I would say, no, but she is. She got me. So why don't we stop being silly and talk about, luck, but in a very different way. Today we're welcoming the two authors of the book named Conscious Luck, and I'm just reading it through right now, and it's absolutely phenomenal. The fact that luck is not as coincidental as we think it is. You can actually work on it. So people, this book Conscious Luck. You have 3 days to read it before Valentine's. It may help you, but let me welcome Gay Hendricks and Carol Kline, the two authors of this amazing book. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's really great to be with you.
Very nice. Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And, we were talking a little bit prior to starting the recording, and we were talking about all of the bestsellers that you have. And, we don't even have the time to talk about them all here because there's so many. But let's focus on Conscious Luck today. And I'm going to start by asking you, how did this book come to be? Like, how do someone sit there one day and be like, you know what, I'm going to write about luck?
Well, what happened was originally, after my book, The Big Leap, came out, which was about 10 years ago, I kept thinking about the subject of luck, and I wanted to have my next book be about luck. But then I made a bunch of notes for it and wrote a few chapters and that kind of thing. And then I put it aside because I got really fascinated with writing novels. I've written a number of mystery novels. And so I wrote a number of mystery novels between 2012 and last year. And so I was busy writing novels, mystery novels, and trying to get them launched up on the big screen and that kind of thing. And so I put away Conscious Luck, but it was always in the back of my mind. And I'm blessed and lucky to live in the same little town in California as my co-author, Carol Kline, who's a very distinguished author whom I had met originally. Jack Canfield and I wrote a book together way back probably 15 years ago, and Carol helped with that. And I kind of fell in love with her back then and how she writes and what she does and how she is as a human being. So I kept bumping into Carol at the farmer's market and places around town. And when I would bump into her, she would always say, "What, Carol?"
Well, he missed one little piece, is that he sent me that conglomeration of ideas in 2012 and said, "What do you think of this?" And I was immediately entranced by the two words, conscious luck. I'd never heard them put together. Luck was something random and consciousness was something intentional. I was like, how do those go? So he sent me this thing, and it was a fantastic idea. It wasn't ready for prime time. It needed work. So I said, I think this is fantastic, but it needs work. And he said, and he went on, put it on the back burner, did his fantastic, by the way, mystery novels. He has two series, one about what was it? He's a Tibetan monk, ex-Tibetan monk.
Yes, he was born in a monastery. His father was a monk who was the head of the monastery, and his mother was a Western spiritual seeking hippie who came to the monastery on the borderline of Tibet and India. And then my guy, Tenzing Norbu, who is my hero, came to the U.S. as a part of a thing when he was 16 and ended up becoming a policeman and then a private detective. And so he's a Tibetan Buddhist private detective in Los Angeles. And my other series is completely different. It's about a kind of a randy Victorian aristocrat named Sir Errol Hyde, whose family originally had Hyde Park, and that was their family home. But now he's kind of an impoverished aristocrat, but he has a lot of adventures, and I have 3 novels about him and 3 more in the can. So he's kind of one of my pet projects.
So I couldn't complain because I love these mysteries, but I kept running into Gay and saying, "Hey, what are you going to do with Conscious Luck?" And he'd say, "Nothing, not right now." Finally, the last time we met in 2017, we ran into each other at that moment, and I said, "Gay." She
tackled me over by the zucchini stand.
I said, "You got to do something with Conscious Luck." And he was like, "Funny you should say that. I've been thinking about it." And I went home, and it's interesting because the book has 8 secrets of how to become more intentionally lucky. And one of them I didn't realize I was going to be using. I was home chopping vegetables, chopping that zucchini that I had bought, and I thought I should just call Gay and say, I will offer to write that book with you. And part of me is going, don't be a dummy. If he wanted that book done, he would do it himself. I was trying to second guess myself, talk myself out of it. And then I said, what do I have to lose? So I emailed him. I was too chicken. I emailed Gay and I said, Gay, I'd really like to offer to do this book for you. And Gay, in the most generous way possible, because Gay is a very generous guy, he said, oh, the world needs a Hendricks Kline collaboration. And so we were off to the races. I had taken a 5-year sabbatical from writing from 2012 to 2017. And writing Conscious Luck has been one of the joys of my career and my life. I got to sit with Gay and we got to hammer out the rest of the book together. I got to write a book that, honestly, there's a really funny thing in the writing world. It's a very modest size book. And there was once a story about a man who said, I'm sorry, I didn't have enough time. I would have written a shorter book if I had more time, because shorter is better. I mean, if you really understand something and you can write about it elegantly and concisely, you've got a much more powerful book. So to me, this is the best book I've ever written, honestly, in the writing of it. It's clear, it's concise. And then we ended up loving it so much that we came out with a workbook, and we'll talk about the workbook later. But this is the latest in a fabulous career for Gay of his brand, and I'll throw it back to him about Conscious, because that's his brand. So I got to hitch my wagon to the Conscious brand.
Well, I got very lucky. The first book I wrote back in 1989 or somewhere around there, landed us. We wrote a book called Conscious Loving, my wife Katie and I, and we landed on Oprah with it, and it became a big bestseller, and still a bestseller 30 years later. And so I got very superstitious about naming books with conscious in it. And so this was a no-brainer to call this Conscious Luck. But here's the thing. In fact, if there's one big thing I want everybody who's watching and listening to this to remember, is that I want you to start thinking of luck as something you can make friends with and welcome more into your life. It's not like getting blessed from above or hit by a lightning strike or shine a light on you or anything like that. A lot of people have that idea that you're lucky if you got born a certain way or certain things happen. But what we found out, Carol did a lot of the interviews for the book with other people who are working in this field of conscious luck. And one of the key interviews was with a professor up at Stanford, Tina Selig, who has this idea, a metaphor for luck is like the wind is always blowing. And if we can get our sails adjusted to the wind just right, we can zoom, and literally. And so we kind of took that metaphor and extended it in lots of ways. But this is the basic idea, that if you will make some adjustments in your body and your mind, your life starts getting better supported by luck that's happening all the time. And so our book just lays out a carefully detailed set of things you can do to make those little mental tweaks. You know, you're doing just fine the way you are, but if you tweak the machinery just a little bit, you'd be supported by luck in a whole different way. And we have tons of examples of that, going back to the one example I shared in the book, going back to the time I was 14 years old, where I originally got this idea was when I was sitting next to a kid at a movie theater where they were going to have a drawing. And this kid leaned over to me. I knew him a little bit. He went to my high school, but I didn't know him real well. And he kind of nudged me and says, "Watch this. I'm going to win one of these prizes." They were giving away 3 prizes, and the best of them was a wristwatch. Pretty big thing. This was in 1959. And so the wristwatch had just been invented. No, I'm just kidding about that part. But wrists had just been invented. And so it was a kind of a good prize to get. So this kid jostles me and says, "Watch this. I'm going to win one of these." I said, "Okay." Sure enough, they drew his name out and he won the top prize, the wristwatch. And then the movie started, and I didn't get to ask him how he did that. But after the movie, I was kind of on him right away. He said, "I've never seen anything like that. How did you do that?" And he said, "One day, I just made up my mind to be one of the lucky ones." So he made a conscious choice to invite luck into his life. And he told me from that point on, things like that happened to him all the time. interestingly enough, once I adopted his point of view, I ended up, there was a contest they ran every Thursday on the radio in Leesburg, Florida, where I grew up. And I always tuned into that program. And I won so many times that they eventually disqualified me. I think I won something like 13 times. And so I had a chance to put it into practice right away, because right after I made that shift of myself deciding to be lucky, I found a very valuable coin collection in a satchel on the street and was able to return it to its owner, who rewarded me with a coin collection worth more money than I'd ever seen in my life at one time. And so that was when I was 14 years old. So that kind of made a true believer in me in all sorts of conscious ways that we can change our lives and make our lives more lucky in love. I got lucky in love too. I'm not only lucky with co-authors, but I met the woman of my dreams 40 years ago and managed to persuade her in one short 10-second conversation that I was the right guy for her. And here we are, just celebrated our last anniversary here, our 40th anniversary of meeting each other here. And so I believe luck can be imported into all sorts of different areas of our life. The first step is to be willing, just to be willing to be luckier today than you were yesterday, and willing to be luckier tomorrow than you were today.
That's fantastic. And so I know that everybody listening, like myself, I'm like, okay, the proof's in the pudding. Obviously, you've taken it to task, and you've been disqualified off radio shows, and you've had the blessing of sitting across from Oprah and meeting Carol. Are you willing to share one of those 8 secrets with us today?
While I mentioned, I'll toss this over to Carol, but I wanted to mention, I just mentioned willingness, and I want to stress that again hard, because the first step in any kind of big life transforming change is to first be willing to have the change. But the second thing is really important, which is to make a commitment to it. Once you've gotten willing to be luckier in money and love and any other area of your life, the next step is to really put your attention on it by making a solid living commitment to it. I commit to being luckier today than I was yesterday. I commit to being luckier tomorrow than I am today. So that's a good starting point.
Thank you, Gay. Gay had probably the first 3 chapters of the book were pretty much written by the time I came on the scene. And the first one was, there are 4 foundational practices that we have in our 8 secrets. The first 4 are committing to luck. And it's not just some woo-woo, like magical thinking, though it does create magic. But it is definitely committing to being lucky, thinking of yourself as a lucky person, because there's so much science behind this. Mindset is everything. And people who think they're lucky tend to be lucky. People who think they're not lucky tend to be not lucky. And that has to, and one of the funniest things is, rabbit's feet and horseshoes and 4-leaf clovers and lucky socks and lucky golf clubs. They work, but not for the reason you think. They work because you think they make you lucky. And so you actually are luckier. These things of those outlooks, those internal outlooks about luck have real world consequences. When you think you're unlucky or lucky, your physiological, your psychological filters in your brain actually shift, and you'll see things that'll make you luckier if you think you're luckier, and you'll miss things that you could be lucky, that could make you lucky when you don't think you're lucky. So this isn't just, some hoodoo voodoo. This is real scientific basis to this commitment thing. So committing to be lucky opens the door to luck. Then you have to release the barriers to luck you have. And that's one of Gay's really huge contributions. And I'll let him talk about it when I finish I'm going to go a little quicker now through the other 8 secrets. But your personal barriers to luck. Some of us are just scared of being lucky. We're afraid of being lucky. We have limiting beliefs that have come from, one of the things, curses. We are cursed by people, and curses sounds weird, but it's actually just a limiting belief that you've internalized. Someone else has told you something about yourself that has come to be an always on feature at a deep level. And You don't have to be a witch doctor to lift curses. We talk about that in the book. Releasing your personal barriers. The third one is transforming shame. One of those personal barriers has a very sort of invasive, insidious effect on us. And Gay came up with an amazing and very unique way to transform shame into a magnet for abundance and luck. The fourth one, and the foundational, is creating goals that actually give luck a reason to visit. They attract luck to you. When you have the right goals. The last four are your daily practices, things you do every day to get luckier. And one is being bold, taking bold action consistently. And that was, I think you'll recognize this term, 20 seconds of insane courage, which is something I know as a marketing professional, a lot of people know about that. It can change your life to ask for things and to be open and take risks. This is scientifically verified. And in my life, it was the difference at the fork in the road where my life took one direction was because I was brave enough to throw myself through a window of opportunity. The next one is to surround yourself with lucky people. Find your lucky community. The seventh secret is to learn to operate at the speed of luck, to be at the right place at the right time. And we have very specific ways to do that, not just leave it to chance. And the last is to learn how to practice radical gratitude and appreciation. So these are all outlined very clearly. It will change in the book, I'm holding up the book, Conscious Luck. And it's amazing. Any one of those will change your luck. Though I do think committing to luck, you need to get through the rest of them. If you have personal barriers, like you can open the door, but if you won't go through the door, it's not going to help you.
It's so generous of you that you just actually, gave us the 8 secrets. And I know that there's a lot of work because I started reading the book and I find it amazing. And I'm so happy to see that you have a workbook now. There's another question I'll ask after that, but I want to say that it's true that the way you see yourself, I've always seen myself since I'm little. There's a draw going on and I'm like, not winning this. I don't even look. I don't even listen, to the point that once I did win and I didn't even get up because I did not hear my name. My brain was like, it's not calling my name. And then my friend was like, they called you. And I'm like, no, so, and it's so true. It's like, you need to be open to luck, but so I have a lot of work to do and I'm so happy to have this book, but, talk to us a bit about, the workbook. And I also want to ask a question. So do we absolutely need to read the book before we do the workbook, or it's something the workbook how does it work?
Well, I think it makes it easier on you if you read the book first, because then the workbook, it's very carefully explained in the workbook, but if you have the basic underlying concepts, it'll make the workbook be a lot more useful to you. And I'm always after making it as easy as possible on ourselves to change. I'm not one of those that believes that you have to suffer mightily in order to make big changes in your life. Changing your life is as easy as taking a big breath and letting a new thought enter your mind. And, I was just harking back a few minutes ago with Valentine's Day and all that. It happened to be in the month of January, a month before Valentine's Day, 40 years ago, that I met Katie. And I wanted to mention the moment because it had to do with 20 seconds of insane courage. What had happened was a month before, I'd kind of had a big flash of enlightenment about how I messed up every relationship I'd ever been in. And I realized that one way I messed them up was not by not sharing my feelings or not being honest. If the person said, "How are you?" I wouldn't say, "Well, I'm feeling sad today," or angry or scared or happy. I would just say, "I'm fine," but I never looked below the surface. And many women, I didn't realize this till I was in my 30s when I had this bolt of enlightenment, but I realized that every relationship I'd ever been in since my teens, the person had said, "You never talk about your feelings." And I always thought that was just girl stuff, what is this talking about your feelings stuff, But anyway, I realized I messed up relationships by not being honest about what was going on in me. The second way I messed them up was by getting into blame and criticism. If I got criticized about something, then I'd criticize the other person back, and then we'd get into a blame back and forth. So anyway, I had this big bolt of enlightenment where I realized if I simply be honest in my relationships and I take responsibility for stuff that comes up rather than blaming, I've got it made. So I had this great conversation. I saw Katie across a crowded room, and she just had this special look about her. And I made a note. I got to talk to this woman before the night is over here. As it happened, she came over to ask me a question. And so neither one of us to this day remember what the question was, because I said, by the way, I want to let you know that as I looked across the room, I felt very attracted to you. And I want to ask you out for a cup of coffee or something. But first, I need to let you know that I just discovered a month before how I mess up every relationship I've ever been in. And so I had this big realization that I mess it up by not telling the truth and not taking responsibility. And I said, on those terms, would you like to have a cup of coffee with me? And if you'd be willing to be in a relationship where both of us tell the truth and both of us take responsibility for things that come up, that's the kind of relationship I want. Are you interested? It took a little more than 10 seconds. I said it took 10 seconds. It probably took 30 seconds, but it didn't take long because it all poured out. And fortunately, she went like this. How about lunch? And
what happened? Did they break the mold after you? Where are those amazing men?
We've been around the world 30 some times teaching our relationship seminars. So there's lots of men now that learn those kinds of things. In fact, here's a hopeful sign. When we first started doing relationship seminars 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it used to be about 3/4 women, 1/4 men. Now, guess what? It's equaled out. Half as many men and half as many women. So I think that's a very hopeful sign because, men have taken kind of a beating over the years for our obtuseness, but I think there's a lot of changes going on in the world now, and I'm happy about that.
That's amazing. I know that, Carol, you're going to share with us about the workbook, and I got to tell you. So thank you very much, Gay. That's very enlightening as a single woman in this world who's had a few experiences around feelings and relationships. So thank you for that. I'm going to tuck it away. But Carol, I got to tell you, I'm so looking forward to you sharing with us the workbook. The reason why is because I am still the person, I'm known as Paper Girl. And I've got 4 books sitting right here. I've got a stack of books. I'm the fold the dog ear. I circle things. I underline things. And, I read a book in my 20s because people say, Deb, I've got some success in my business. And they're like, how do you do it? And I recommended books over the years. But so there was one book I started reading in my 20s. And I read it 7 times. And I read it 7 times over the course of years because I kept going back and I would look at the stuff I circled and I'd read it and I'd circle new stuff. And what I noticed is it got to the point where I was doing this personal development and then there was no workbooks. I don't know, maybe I'm a little archaic. There's no work. So a group of us got together and we did this kind of book meeting before, I think even before Oprah's book club thing started, because we wanted to talk to people and we wanted to work through the book because we wanted what the book promised. And it was about financial success. And so when you told me you had a workbook, I was like, glory be, because how much easier is that? So, what was kind of I don't know what your inspiration was for the workbook, but what can someone expect as they go through that process?
Well, I'm going to tell you the inspiration for the workbook is kind of cool. We, when this book came out in May of 2020, a friend of Gay's named Kameen Samuel, who's an executive coach, bought one for every client she had. And she was working with these clients with all the processes in Conscious Luck, because there are things to do in Conscious Luck. We give you exercises and things to do and visualizations and meditations. And what she said was that she was writing in the margins and there wasn't enough room and her people were saying, we need this. And what she approached Gay and she said, Gay, have you thought about doing a workbook? This book really needs people to work with it more personally, to apply these general principles that work to their specific situation. And I came up with this analogy in my head. It's like you try on the book and you see where it needs tailoring for you, because you have a unique mind-body complex, unique limiting beliefs, unique set of life experiences. And so some of these secrets will be like no big deal, like rolling off a log, and some will require a little more digging, like where did that idea come from? Where did that limiting belief come from? How can I apply this in my life? So I was lucky enough, Gay said, Kameen, great idea. Why don't you meet Carol? And so we all worked on this book together. Kameen and I kind of got to do a lot more of the everyday. Gay is always, full of the great ideas. And we jumped around and made the sausage. And it is this book, Conscious Luck Workbook. And I think I said this, when you understand the principles in conscious luck, you have opened a door to a different life. Honestly, you can't go back. Even just reading it once will definitely make a difference. But if you want to put your skates on and you want those skates to have a rocket engine, buy this book and do it. That's another thing. I don't know how many books you have where you have them and you look at them and they are doorstops or they are paperweights. Make a commitment to, I think you'll love the experience of really owning and incorporating and applying these principles in your life. Conscious Luck has been one of the most joyous books because one of the things, the one secret at the end, the conscious, the radical gratitude, if you could even get, and radical gratitude is, again, gratitude on steroids. It's not only being grateful for what is wonderful in your life, but finding a way and not mood making, not, what's that word? What do I call that? Spiritual bypass. It's not that kind of thing where, oh yes, everything's fine when it's not. You're not putting a post-it note of a happy face over a gaping wound. You're learning how to feel responsive to your feelings and then look for a way to be proactive and find gratitude. So in the workbook, we have exercises. So you learn what to do, and this is how to do it. That's my quick difference about them.
Well, I can't wait to get it because I will. I have a funny question to ask here, and I hope I'm not throwing you under the bus, but because I'm sure someone did ask, do you play lottery? Are you taking advantage of that luck?
Well, actually, I don't have to play the lottery. There's this really legal system called the stock market. And I made efforts to get smart about that when I was a youngster. As a matter of fact, I had my first job out of high school. I was a furniture mover the summer I graduated from high school, and I got paid 50 cents an hour. But what I did, the first paycheck I got, which was for $27, I believe, I went down and I bought one share of stock. I was the only kid to come into the stock exchange, they said, that year and buy one share of stock. So anyway, I've been thinking about that kind of thing. But I don't recommend that people use gambling as a tool to test your luck. I recommend that you use luck to shape your love life and to shape your financial decisions, to be open to luck. There's absolutely no downside to getting luckier. There's only an upside, because the more you open yourself to luck, the more you're grateful for what you have and the more you're grateful for what you're giving to the world. Luck just chases that. And if we can open up and make ourselves available to it, luck will fall all over itself getting into our laps.
Well, that's very well said. Sorry, Deb. It's very well said. It's basically, focus on what you can control.
Yes, that's a key to it. I call that the Epictetus algorithm, because Epictetus 2,000 years ago said, the secret of happiness is knowing there are some things you can control and some things you cannot. And so if you get that algorithm installed up there where you look at situations and say, okay, what can I control here and what can't I control? So it makes life a lot simpler and easier.
I'm going to jump on that a little bit because it's a very good question. I think one of the things that people understand is that luck chases worthy goals. And so we're not talking about luck in the racetrack if you align your goals with 3 requirements, they have to be goals that light you up, that are meaningful to you, but that also help other people. We have a concept in the book called universal winks, that when you are in harmony with the benevolent forces in the universe, that you are not just out for yourself, but that your goals, your life has meaning and relevance to other people, that you take into account the needs of the world and other people. The world's going to scratch, it's a cosmic quid pro quo. The universe will scratch your back. And you'll find unbelievable coincidences and synchronicities and things that just are basically what we call universal wink, that there's so much intelligence in the universe when you align yourself with it. So you might find yourself winning more lotteries or drawings, as Gay talked about when he was 14. But luck is so much richer than that. Luck is about success. Luck is about abundance. Luck is about harmony and meaning and purpose and being the best, having the best life that you could have. And sometimes the best life that you can have is about learning lessons. So and learning how to be grateful. So luck is a misunderstood concept. Mm-hmm. And I think what we tried to do in this book and what it has done for me is revolutionize your concept of luck. That luck in the dictionary says it's something that happens apparently without your control, apparently it's serendipity, it's random, it's frivolous, it's, has nothing to do with you. And some people get offended when you say, oh, you're lucky. It's like, oh, you have nothing to do with you. Well, of course, I earned this. I worked hard or whatever. So luck has been and has been limiting our happiness and our success for centuries. When you understand luck as Garrett Gay alluded to with our interview, that it's not a random lightning strike, isolated and dramatic, but it is a wind that's always blowing. And if you build a sail, and what we're talking about in conscious luck are the behaviors that make up that sail. If you build that sail, then that luck's going to take you wherever you are, wherever you want to go.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm thrilled. And it's when you said universal winks, I was like, what a great t-shirt. And because I had this flash, I got to tell you, I had this flash. I'm sure we've all seen Forrest Gump, and he's at the end of that run, that run where he processed his life, really. And someone gave him that t-shirt. It was the yellow t-shirt with the happy face. As soon as you said universal winks, that was the picture that flashed in my head. And I thought, I feel so elated. I actually, just in this interview alone, feel relieved, feel elated. And I feel like very joyful. It was like just that piece of information around what I'm going to dig into this book. It's game changing. And not only game changing, I feel almost like important work. Like we've missed the piece on this. So obviously we're going to recommend to get the book. Caroline's got the book. I'm sure she's going to be telling me to do all sorts of things because that's one of the things that she loves to do. I think that's one of her things. And so I'm lucky to have her. But as we wrap this interview up, because I know that you guys are very busy, is there anything else that you want us to know about future projects that you're working on? Or what is it that you want to kind of leave us with, Caroline Gay? Maybe give us a little chance to share about each other, what you're doing separately, if you're doing anything together, like what's next for you guys, and what can you share with us to finish off this time together?
Well, one thing I want to make sure we mention is we have a very lively Facebook group called the Conscious Luck Global Community. And that's a hangout place for people that kind of like to play around with these ideas. And so we've got a lot of great stories that have developed there. So that's one thing. Also, I'm continuing to do work related to the Big Leap. I have a new sequel to the Big Leap coming out this summer called The Genius Zone. So that's kind of a new direction. I'm in the middle of lining up all the public relationship stuff for when that's produced in June. And I know Carol's busy working on all sorts of projects with all sorts of people.
Yeah. And Gay, I want to just make sure people know that The Big Leap can really change your life. That book was one of the most powerful books because we can know what to do, but those barriers that stop us. And we found that there was this upper limits problem, and he calls it, I thought it was ULP, but it's ULP. As in gulp without the G. So these ULPs these upper limits. And I'm not, if we started, we'd have you'd have another podcast with Gay. But there is a luck alt. And we found that people were limiting their own luck because of they hit against the ceiling and they couldn't get above it. So I'm excited because Gay and I might be working later on. I'm a workbook fanatic now. So I'm hoping we can do you have to become an expert on that. So I'm going to learn more about it for myself and then learn how to help other people. I am doing some writing projects, writing for hire, manuscript critiques. I'm having a grand time getting back into my writing. And we have a website that we highly recommend, consciousluck.com. You can buy this book anywhere you buy books. But if you buy it, make sure you keep your receipt and go to our website, consciousluck.com. Enter your receipt number and you get all kinds of really cool bonuses. We have a self-assessment to see where you need. I recommend, Caroline, that you do that even before you read the book so you can tell, I really need to focus on this chapter. We have meditations, luck activation, 3 minutes in the morning, 3 minutes in the evening with our Gay and I recorded them. We have, question and answer things. We have all kinds of fun stuff. And then there's consciouslook.com/workbook. And again, buy the book, put your thing in, and there are bonuses there. So I want to thank you. This has been one of the most fun interviews. You guys have such great energy.
Well, thank you.
Thanks a lot. This is really a lot of fun. I wish you really well with your enterprises.
Well, thank you. But I really don't want to let you go before, Carol, you mentioned, I want you to take 2 minutes to talk about Happy for No Reason and Love for No Reason, that are two other amazing books from you. And yes, I really want to hear a little about it.
Sure. Well, you'll read in Conscious Luck, you'll hear about how I became an author. I was in my 30s when I started writing. I had a very varied career. And I wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And then I wrote Happy for No Reason and Love for No Reason. But actually, I wrote a book with Gay and Jack Canfield called You've Got to Read This Book. 55 people tell the story of the book that changed their life. And I have to say it's my favorite book before this one that I'd ever written. It's really wonderful if you ever get a chance. It's fabulous. But Happy for No Reason and Love for No Reason were written with Marcy Shimoff, who is the best-selling woman's nonfiction author pretty much ever. She's really done really well. And me. And
J.K. Rowling.
Or J.K. Rowling, but that's fiction. Oh, yeah. This is nonfiction self-help. So she and I wrote a book about how to be happy from the inside out. It was the 2006, 2008, happiness was like a trend. And there was so much positive psychology there about happiness. And we wrote a book about what if you could bring happiness to whatever you did rather than try and take happiness from it. And there are good, so happy for bad reason is addictions. Happy for good reason is relationships, good job, whatever. What about happy for no reason? Just because. And in Spanish, the book is translated into 33 languages. It did extremely well. New York Times bestseller, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and it's called Feliz porque sí, which just means happy because, and just because. So if you, and Love for No Reason was her brand was for no reason, and so our next book was about how to have love, not because of someone deserves it or whatever, but because you're a fountain of love, to experience yourself as an open heart. And those are both beautiful books that changed my life. If you want to be lucky, if you want to have more happiness, if you want to have more love, write about them.
I feel so blessed.
Wow.
I feel like today we're so blessed. We will learn how to be happy for no reason, love for no reason, and then have conscious love, and then have conscious luck. So a few books to read before Valentine's, guys, if you wanted to be successful. But honestly, I feel like we're meeting two legends right now. And thank you so much. Like, I honestly feel, so grateful. And thank you so much. And I will let you close, Deb, because I know you like to have the last word.
Oh, see, it's right there. It's right there. So in French, I've learned that that's called throwing the pot. So instead of giving you flowers, which you beautiful people gave to me today, Caroline's here to throw the pot. And anyways, throughout all the banter, of course, I just really simply, there's only really 2 words that you can say for people like yourself that take this much time and energy and effort to be brave first. I mean, that's really the truth, right? Why do people buy your books and why do we want them to buy your books and why do we buy your books? Is because you did it first. So you braved up and you became transparent, which I only have a snippet of what it's like to be an author because both myself and Caroline just authored in our first book. And it was a very cathartic experience. And it was really sharing a piece of ourselves. So I want to say thank you from that side of it. I want to say thank you from putting yourself into something that other people benefit and being transparent, which honestly, I don't care how many times you do it, it takes off another layer. So I just want to say thank you for going first. Thank you for going first and sharing what you do with what you do. And I know that we'll have you back on the show again, maybe when myself and Caroline do the next book. And so I just feel like I've met 2 friends today, and I'm very appreciative of it. So Caroline, of course, I'm going to let the pot go there, and I'm going to send you some flowers. I'm grateful for yourself as well.
Thank you. And you got the expression wrong, by the way. It's just like in French, when we say when we throw someone flowers, you need to be careful, the pot is coming. So when I throw you flowers, you need to be careful. That's the expression. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in this week. Thank you so much, Carol Kline. Thank you so much, Kate Hendricks. It was beautiful, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.